Sure. So let us start with a new topic today. As I promised, after a very long break, I'm going to start with the videos now, theoretical topics of anatomy. So we'll start with a very simple topic first. We'll start with the pectoral region. For all of you, I want to tell you that whenever you are going to talk about any region or any muscle or anything, you will have to refer to the previous videos of the bones so that you can understand these muscles, their origin, insertion properly. So when we are going to talk about the pectoral region, we are going to talk about, first we'll talk about the three muscles in the pectoral region, and then we'll talk about an important topic, that is the mammary gland. So these are the two topics of the pectoral region. Now today I am going to talk about the three muscles of the pectoral region. The three muscles which we are going to talk about in the pectoral region will be the pectoralis major, then the pectoralis minor, and the subclavius. I will take serratus anterior later. We will concentrate today only on these three muscles, the pectoralis major, pectoralis minor, and the subclavius. Okay. Now, any muscle that you are going to talk about, whenever you are going to talk about any muscle, you have to talk about the muscle in four headings. You have to talk about the muscle under four headings, which are origin, insertion, nerve supply, and action. Okay. So these are the four headings on which you have to talk about a muscle: origin, insertion, nerve supply, and action. Now the first muscle that we are going to talk about in this region is pectoralis major. Okay. The pectoralis major is the big muscle of this pectoral region, a big muscle. You can see this muscle which forms the anterior chest wall and also forms the anterior wall of the axilla. This muscle is pectoralis major. What is the origin of pectoralis major? The pectoralis major originates from this. I'll draw this for you. So this is the sternum. Okay. And then you have the ribs that are going to be attached. So this is the first rib, the second rib, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Okay. So these are the ribs which are going to be attached to the sternum. So the pectoralis major will originate from half the breadth of the sternum. Meaning it will originate from here, half the breadth of the sternum. Here like this. Right pectoralis major will originate from the right side, and left pectoralis major will originate from the left side. So it is originating from half the breadth of the sternum and from the second to the sixth costal cartilage. This is the origin of pectoralis major. Okay. The second origin of the pectoralis major is from the clavicle. You have the clavicle which is going to be attached here. Okay. So when we have talked about the clavicle, it will originate from the anterior surface of the medial 2/3 of the clavicle. So these are the two fibers. So we have clavicular fibers which are originating from the anterior surface of the medial 2/3 of the clavicle, and sternal fibers which are going to originate from the anterior half of the sternum and half of the sternum from the anterior surface and from second to sixth costal cartilages. So these fibers are going to come like this, and they will form a triangular muscle. Okay, so this muscle is going to be a big triangular muscle, and this is going to go there. It is going to cross the axilla and take part in the formation of the anterior wall of the axilla, and here it will be inserted into the humerus. Okay, so this is the humerus. On the on the humerus you have greater tubercle and lesser tubercle. So this is the greater tubercle, this is the lesser tubercle. So this muscle will be inserted on the in lateral lip of intertubercular sulcus of the humerus. Okay. So between these two tubercles, you will have the intertubercular sulcus. So the muscle will be inserted onto the lateral lip of intertubercular sulcus of the humerus. Now, what is the peculiarity of the insertion? As this muscle goes towards the humerus, it is going to turn like this. Okay, so the fibers of the muscle are going to turn like this, and then they will be inserted into the greater. This is the greater tubercle, lateral lip of the intertubercular sulcus. The muscle will turn, and it will form what this type of insertion is called as the bilaminar insertion or bilaminar tendon. Okay, so I'll repeat again. The origin and insertion of pectoralis major. The origin is from two heads. It will originate from the sternum and also from the clavicle. It originates from half the breadth of the sternum and from the anterior surface of the medial 2/3 of the clavicle, and then also from the second to the sixth costal cartilages. The triangular muscle will cross the axilla, take part in formation of the anterior wall of the axilla, and will be inserted into the lateral lip of the intertubercular sulcus of the humerus, or it is also called as bicipital groove. The peculiarity of the insertion is that it is a bilaminar tendon, so that is inserted in a bilaminar way. So that is the origin and insertion of pectoralis major. I hope you have understood this. First we'll discuss the origin and insertion of the muscle, and then we'll go to the nerve supply and action. Okay? I hope you have understood this now. Now we'll talk about next muscle of the pectoral region. We'll first talk origin, insertion, and then I will discuss the nerve supply and action of these muscles. Okay? The next muscle of this region is pectoralis minor. Pectoralis minor, the small muscle which is there of the pectoral region. It is present when you reflect the pectoralis major above. From there, below that you will see pectoralis minor. Okay. Now, what is the origin of pectoralis minor? So again, we will have to draw the sternum here. Okay. Now the sternum. This is the second rib. You will have the third rib, the fourth rib, and the fifth rib. Now these ribs, as you know, these ribs are connected to. These are the costal arteries. This is the rib, third rib. This is the fourth rib, and this is the fifth rib. This junction between this blue color and the black color portion, this is the rib and this is the costal cartilage. So this junction is called as costochondral junction. So pectoralis minor will originate from the costochondral junction of the third, fourth, and the fifth rib at the costochondral junction. So I will repeat the origin. Pectoralis minor originates from the costochondral junction of the third, fourth, and the fifth rib. And again, this is also a triangular muscle. From here, this muscle is going to go up and it will be inserted into the, this is the coracoid process of the scapula. So it will be inserted into the coracoid process of the scapula towards the anterior surface. Okay. So the muscle will be triangular and it will be inserted into the anterior surface of the coracoid process of the scapula. That is the origin and insertion. I will repeat again the origin. The muscle originates from the third, fourth, and the fifth ribs at the costochondral junction. This is the third rib, this is the fourth rib, this is the fifth rib. It will originate from here. This will go upwards and will be inserted into the anterior surface of the coracoid process of the scapula. Okay. Now, what is important to understand here about this muscle is that when this muscle is going to go towards its insertion, it is going to cross a very important structure which is there in the axilla, and this structure is called as axillary artery. So the muscle will cross the axillary artery, and because of the crossing over of the muscle with the axillary artery gets divided into three parts. The part, this is called as the first part, which is proximal to the artery, the second part which is deep to the artery, and the third part, the first part of the artery which is proximal to the muscle, the second part of the artery which is deep to the muscle, and the third part of the artery which is distal to the muscle. Okay. So I hope you have understood the origin and insertion of pectoralis minor. Okay. Now the last muscle of this region, the small muscle which is there of this region is subclavius. Okay. Now we'll understand subclavius. It's a very small muscle but a very important muscle. Okay. Now subclavius is what? Now again, if you draw the sternum here, okay, you will have the sternum, you will have the clavicle like this. Okay. Now here you have the attachment of the first rib. Okay. This is the first costal cartilage, and then if you draw the first rib, it will be like this. So it is going to come like this. Now. So imagine this is the first rib, this is the first costal cartilage. So the muscle will be originating from the first rib costochondral junction. So it will be originating from here, and it will go and insert just below here on the inferior surface of the clavicle. You have what? You have the subclavian groove. There is a subclavian groove on the inferior surface of the clavicle. So this muscle is going to just originate from the first rib costochondral junction and will be inserted onto the subclavian groove which is present on the inferior surface of the clavicle. So this is the origin and insertion of subclavius. Okay, very easy to understand this now. So these are the origin and insertion of these three muscles which we are talking of the pectoral region. And revise one more time. Pectoralis major, the big muscle of the pectoral region. We have seen that there are two origins. The first origin is going to come from the anterior surface of half of the sternum. Clavicle, it originates from the anterior surface of the medial tooth of the clavicle. This triangular muscle is going to cross the axilla. It is going to take part in the formation of the anterior wall of the axilla and will be inserted into the lateral lip of the intertubercular sulcus of the humerus. And the insertion is bilaminar. That is what you have to remember. Pectoralis minor, the small muscle of the pectoral region, which is going to be deep to pectoralis major. It will originate from the costocondyle junction to the third, fourth, and the fifth rib. It will travel upwards and will be inserted into the anterior surface of the coracoid process of the scapula. And the peculiarity of the insertion is that that muscle is going to be crossing the axillary artery and divide the axillary artery into three parts: the first part, second part, and the third part. And the third muscle is subclavius, which you have seen. It originates from the first rib at the costocondyle junction and inserted just below the clavicle in the subclavian groove. Okay, so that is the origin and insertion of these muscles. Now, remaining two parts of this muscle, now the nerve supply and action. Now, the nerve supply of pectoralis major and minor is common. It is called as lateral and medial pectoral nerve. Lateral and medial pectoral nerves. So these are the nerves that are going to supply pectoralis major and minor. And the subclavius, the nerve supply of the subclavius is from nerve to subclavius. Okay, that is the nerve supply of these muscles. The first and the second, pectoralis major and minor, both have a common nerve supply. They are the lateral and the medial pectoral nerves. And the nerve supply of subclavius is nerve to subclavius. Now we'll understand the actions of these muscles. Pectoralis major is a big muscle and it has important actions. What are the actions of pectoralis major? I will demonstrate the actions. Okay, the pectoralis major is this muscle here. Now if you want to understand the action, the major actions will be flexion of the shoulder joint. It will cause adduction and medial rotation. Okay, I'll repeat again. It will flex, it will adduct, and it will medially rotate the shoulder joint. These are the actions of pectoralis major. Pectoralis minor is going to be helping in drooping the point of the shoulder. It will pull the shoulder down. When levator scapulae pulls the shoulder blade up, pectoralis minor is going to pull that shoulder blade down. So this is the action of pectoralis minor. It is an important muscle for respiration, so it helps in forced inspiration. To help in forced inspiration also. And the last muscle of this region, the subclavius, a very small muscle. It will help to steady the clavicle during rapid movements of the shoulder joint. Okay, so I'll repeat again the actions of these three muscles. Pectoralis major, a big muscle here. You can feel the action. It is flexion, adduction, and medial rotation of the shoulder joint. Pectoralis minor, drooping of the shoulder. It will pull the, it will depress the point of the shoulder. It will help in forced inspiration. And subclavius is the small muscle which is going to steady the clavicle during rapid movements of the shoulder joint. So this is about a short video just to start with after a very long break of the three muscles of the pectoral region. There is one more muscle which needs detailed explanation, that is the serratus anterior. I will make a separate video for that. So this is just to start with. I expect all of you to please go through these videos. Please give your comments and suggestions regarding improvement of the videos, and kindly like, share and subscribe my channel. Thank you.